Welcome to another episode of our mini podcast, I Built a Company That Makes a Difference by B1. Here we talk to founders of sustainable businesses to get their takes on how and why they started their companies, and very importantly, and very interesting, their lessons that they learned along the way. With me today are Stine Smith and Kristy Hunter, the co-founders of Good Change. So Good Change makes natural, eco-friendly, modern, and sustainable cleaning products that don't cost the earth. These two entrepreneurs launched Good Change in 2019 in New Zealand. Their products are available in supermarkets and organic grocery stores around that country and also in Australia, where they've launched most recently and have gained a really good foothold. So, Kristy and Stine, welcome to the show. Thanks so much for being here.
Well, thank you so much for having us, Amber. It's a real pleasure to be on your podcast.
Yeah, thanks, Amber. Lovely to be here.
Stine, you guys make reference to the idea of modern cleaning on your website and when you talk. Can you give us an idea, just for the audience, what is modern cleaning and what is the alternative to modern cleaning, or what was the throwback to modern cleaning? What does that entail?
There's a few different ways we define modern cleaning. So you can go back and think of, how did your parents clean? What products did they use? Very likely you will be using some of those products still today. You will probably also have some of the same habits that your parents had. So if we think back, a lot has changed in the world from products that used to be used till today, except in the cleaning category. That's a bit of a space that we quite often saw not left pretty much since the 90s. You know, you had the disco colors of the pinks and the bright yellows and everything wrapped in thin plastics. So we wanted to introduce a whole new concept and a new way of really thinking about your cleaning routine that also fitted more of the modern household and the way they're thinking. And the way we define modern cleaning is, first of all, it has to be what we say, earth friendly. It has a natural component. That's a simple requirement for everyone going forward. We fully believe that you cannot have a company today that is not doing good and that is not having a component. You can't just throw plastic out there. So all products have to be free of dangerous chemicals, and they also need to be compostable in a way that it breaks down and goes back to the earth. One thing that also really bothered us was the look of it. So all our products really have to look good. Design is a massive component. Even though we're trying to make our products cheap, doesn't mean that you are not allowed to have a product that looks good. So a cleaning cloth, a cleaning spray, it often sits. Chris and I both have children, and so in my family, the cleaning spray is just always out. So the wipes and cloths, the kids just always make a mess. And it's nice to have something lying on the bench that actually looks good, that doesn't completely clash with by interiors or by other style that I'm somehow trying to convey. And also, if people pop in, there's open kitchen space nowadays. It's a space everyone sees, so it's nice to have something up there, next to my beautiful hand soap. That's my beautiful bench spray, kind of matches together. And finally, there's also a big component of innovation involved. A lot of factories now are starting to come around and say, well, all the products that we're spitting out that we used to produce on scale, we have to change some of it now because demands are changing, luckily, out there. So there's a big demand now for products that are smarter, that are done in a different way. So once you get all these researchers on board, you can actually develop some really awesome things. One of the things was that we, some years back, saw this trend in Europe with the refill tablets. So basically, this means you can have a refill tablet that has all the concentrated cleaning of your cleaning spray. The thinking behind it is that a cleaning spray is 90% water, 10% concentrate. So we're thinking, well, why? We're lucky in most parts of the Western world to have clean water coming out of our taps. So why are we not using that? Why are we actually spending carbon trucking all this water around? So and secondly, why is everything in single-use plastic bottles? So instead, we developed with a group of scientists. We were actually in the lab with them as well, developing complete custom-made, just for us, tablets that we could fill with beautiful botanicals. We fragranced it with essential oils. But we also got to work with the scientists on the actual cleaning. Because often you see these natural products and it's pretty much just a water vinegar solution. We say it actually needs to have a little bit of oomph. It needs to lift the grease. People need to use it when you're a family, but it still has to be safe. So that's some of the cleverness you can actually get once you get the scientists on board. So it was really inspirational for Kristy and I to put on the white lab coats and follow these scientists around and actually make requests, ask all sort of the layman questions, and they would think about it and come back with a new sample for us, something else to test, all within that natural space. And this is really what we call modern cleaning. It's that smart thinking, looks good, and earth friendly. That was a really long answer.
No, it's not. It makes me, in your answer, it makes me think about a couple things. One, there are a couple industries, and I'm so lucky on this podcast that I get to talk to people that are completely revolutionizing industries that you don't even think about. So cleaning products that's one industry that I haven't thought about really. I mean, about, I don't know, 10 years ago, 5 years ago, when I was like, everything has got to be natural in the house. I want to get rid of all of this stuff. This, exactly what you said, like cleaning solutions that are basically toxic. You can't even put your hands in them, and they're bright yellow. Like the floor cleaners, the things that my grandma used to use for sure, and it would keep the whole house smelling like bleach all of the time. And I tried to make a full switch, but about 10 years ago, the technology wasn't there. So it just didn't work. Things just didn't work. And was the most common refrain I heard as well is, I would love to go organic. It just doesn't work. Like it doesn't take off lime spot. Like it just doesn't work as well. So that was one. And the other one is, I have a toddler now who loves to help me clean. And when she started to want to mimic me is when I had another freak out about her touching anything. But she wanted to clean. She wanted to help. And she wanted to have her spray bottle. So I've got spray bottles all over the house that are water and vinegar for her to use. But I had another freak out one with the idea of her touching anything. So it prompted another whole, I don't want to call it anxiety, but it was probably not far from anxiety about like what's in my house.
Yeah. And Kristy and I, we hear that quite often, especially that chemical cleaning spray. I think there's a whole, I've got to say this word, gotta hate it, paradigm shift that we need to make in our heads around how we think about this. Because there is this thinking out there that you need to spray everything. It has to be completely sterile. You can't have a single bacteria on your kitchen table. But that's not actually true. I'm not going to give you a whole lot of hate mail now, Ember. But
no, I hear that as well. I will co-sign this. Since becoming a parent and understanding more about immune systems, even vaccine, all of these things that yes are quite hot button topics. Yes, I will co-sign on that.
And so there is bacteria you need. There's definitely bad bacteria for sure, but there's also bacteria that just naturally needs to be part of your environment to keep you resistant especially with toddlers as you grow up. That's why they put all that stuff in their mouth. I'm sure that helps somewhere along the line in the future. And especially with the spray cloths, I also saw when mine were toddlers, the cleaning cloths, because they would have a microfiber cloth and put it in their mouth. And now that I've read about microfiber cloths, and obviously Kristy and I have done a whole lot of research on this, it's microplastics.
It's plastic,
release little bits of microplastics. And we eat about 5 grams a week, which is a credit card worth of microplastics.
Wait, so can you just say that one again? We eat how much?
5 grams a week of microplastics, which is the same that a credit card is, the same weight of a credit card. So that's actually what you consume.
A credit card's weight amount of plastic. We ingest that every week.
Yes. Could also be through the air. There's little bits of plastic that can be flying through the air depending on where you live. It comes through your food. It comes through your fish. It comes through. It's actually even been proven. Some research found it in breast milk. So it just makes you think about the things you have in your home that you probably haven't thought of earlier because no one actually raised it as an issue. In the 50s, plastic was the big wonder product, right? So that's been riding on that wave for long, but we're all now starting to learn more, know more, seeing the side effects of that. And there's definitely room for plastic. There's a space for it, but there's also a space for areas where we can come up with better solutions. And that's what we want to try to do.
I'm going to be stuck and thinking about that statistic that you just shared with us for many, many days.
I know it's a bit frightening. Yeah,
it's terrifying.
There's lots of footage you can show where fishermen, carve up fish, and it's just full of little plastic bits inside, and so it's
Good night. I jumped right in, but I would love to know about both of you, Kristy and Stine. your backgrounds. How did you get started? What were you doing before you launched this venture?
Well, I'll just chime in here. I've got a sales and marketing background, but I was actually a full-time mum for almost 10 years with 3 little kids. And Stine approached me with this. I think I just put my last child into school, and it was literally half an hour later, Stine asked me for a meeting, and we got together, and she presented this idea of this cleaning cloth and how we could actually take a cloth that's been around for at least 70 years, but the ones that we'd seen in stores over here were wrapped in plastic with really ugly, bright, garish looking colors and designs. And she just had this idea to zhuzh it up, create a sophisticated design that was really streamlined, and we could put it on the shelf, wrapped in a nice sort of belly band at an affordable price. And everything resonated with me when Stine approached me about this, because it just ticked quite a few boxes. The biggest box it ticked was the purpose-driven part of the business. It was just very appealing, and so that was where it all began.
Did you two know each other beforehand?
Yes, yeah. So we our children actually go to the same school.
Oh, that's handy.
So I think I met Kristy one of the first weeks after moving to New Zealand. So Kristy came one of my first friends. And also the reason why I talked to Kristy was we had talked over the year, because Kristy was working on a business plan for a natural soap range, or home product fragrance range. So I knew that, Kristy, you were brewing on starting your own business. And we'd both sort of been talking, because we'd been talking back and forth on this business plan. We've sort of been bouncing back and forth ideas when there was a few areas you wanted to just get some second eyes and ears on. And we were both sort of walking down the aisles in general of supermarkets, and also seeing this really stuck in the 90s category that just has all this plastic and single-use plastic in it. And I think we had a few conversations about it. And I think it was all of that when I remembered this cloth that I kind of knew from back home, from many years back, that sort of sparked the idea that, this is it, Kristy and I, we've actually been talking about this for a while without actually really putting something concrete on it. But when you talk about something, you become focused on it. And the solution just kind of presented itself. And I knew that Kristy was already quite down the path of starting her own company. And so I kind of just grabbed onto her for that one, for Kristy, and presented that idea.
It's interesting because we started with,
Go on.
It's interesting because we started with the cleaning cloth, and then we've ended up, launching a number of different products, and we've finally arrived at the bench spray, which is what I was planning to launch in the beginning. So, but more of a refill concept.
Full circle then.
Yes.
Well, these are issues that, as you said, like something that's been around for 70 years without any innovation. So it's each thing that you're tackling is like, okay, it's been around in this form for a really long time. If it's the first product, the third product, or the 30th product that we launch, it still needs to be solved.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So Stine, what were you doing before this?
I come from a bit more of a corporate background. So worked as a management consultant for many years throughout Europe, and then many years in the Middle East, throughout various Middle Eastern countries. And then one random night I bumped into this Kiwi guy, which is, Kiwi is what they call New Zealand, there's people from New Zealand. And next thing I knew, I was moving to New Zealand. And then worked in New Zealand for many years for a big corporate out of Auckland in New Zealand. And then eventually started my own companies and went for myself. So I had another company before this that I recently sold, and then wanted to do something that had a bit more impact in So this was definitely the right path.
Can I ask you two then? I've never asked co-founders who are on the call at the same time this question about co-founders, because this is a question that we get a lot, and we spend a lot of time talking to other entrepreneurs about. It seems to me, just in my circle, about 50% of the time, I'm hearing about solo entrepreneurs talking about how difficult it is, and they wish they had a co-founder. And then the other part of the time is co-founders saying, oh, it's really hard. This is like a marriage. Like, it's really hard to navigate decision making and to box disagreements, etc. So, should I do a venture on my own? So we've got co-founders here. Can you talk to us about, seems like you two gravitated towards each other with a really strong entrepreneurial spirit, both of you. Can you talk to us about, just for our audience, a lot of our audience are entrepreneurs or aspiring entrepreneurs. So more for the aspiring entrepreneurs, maybe, how do you find a co-founder, and how do you know when it works? How do you know this is something that we should do together? Or how far do you get before you might say, oh, this is probably not going to work? How do you work? How do you find a co-founder? And then I don't want to say how do you make it work, because that's too broad. That will be like a 24-hour podcast. But how do you, in those first, let's say the first year, how do you figure out how to work with a co-founder?
I can tell you my version. Do you want to start with your version, Kristy, or should I?
All I was going to say is we didn't actually overthink it right from the very start. And you never know right from the outset if it's going to work. But all I would say is I knew right from the start that Stine and I don't really take life too seriously. We've got good sense of humors. No, I probably didn't know this actually, but as the journey's gone on, I've realized that if anything goes wrong, or I've made lots of mistakes, we both sort of somehow managed to laugh it off and find a positive slant on it. And it somehow, I probably a few years ago, before this, wouldn't have considered going into business with somebody else, especially a friend. Mm-hmm. But it just seems to work, and we've both got different skill sets. I'm probably more tactical. Stina's really strategic. She's really corporate, and just brings in all these amazing disciplines that I just wouldn't know how to do. So somehow, I don't know, Stina, if you want to add to that, but together we seem to be quite a formidable team.
Yeah, I tend to agree. And I think there's two. One is personality, one is skill set, right? So having started my other company before we started Good Change, I did that solo. And that it ended up just not being fun in the end, because it becomes really overwhelming. You feel you're just not moving fast enough. When you're two, you move twice as fast. And but it has to be that the right person. And I think seeing myself as a one-man band, I could see where I was really good, but I could also see where I was really lacking, in some areas. And I think I've always admired Kristy for, there's a lot of it about Kristy's personality and skill sets that I've admired. And I thought, those are exactly the skill sets that I don't have. And I think sort of, maybe it was in the back of my head, or in hindsight, it's easier to spot. But we have extremely complementary skill sets. I don't even reckon Kristy, I reckon it's just like, the perfect fit in terms of skill set. And then personality wise, we're definitely so positive. We're quite positive people. I think if one of us was going to be a little bit of a downer person, it would make it really difficult. Right. Because there are lots of times, the supermarket buyers, or you get rejection of something, and it's a real letdown. Right. But listen, you just you go home, and then you talk it out, and then you're just going to be, oh well, that's that was one. We'll move on to the next one, and we'll laugh it off, and we'll tell a joke, and then honestly, that's it. We've moved on. So I think that positivity really keeps up a lot of energy, and it keeps up the brand and where we're in, the directions we're going in.
So then, go on.
Oh, I was just going to add in there, we have these situations, we call them our toe curling moments, where I think with two of us versus one, we get, as Stine said, this energy and a little bit of gutsiness comes on board, where we'll go and knock on the door of a buyer of a big, a chain of supermarkets in Australia, for example, and we won't book an appointment, and we'll just arrive, but we'll egg each other on to actually get the job done and enter their office, which I would find absolutely terrifying, and I think Stine would be the same. But together, we just do it, and it's scary, but it actually gets us places, and we just take these opportunities that we probably wouldn't take otherwise.
Yeah. So I think in terms of co-founders, I think there's skill set has to be somewhat, somewhat of a match. So you can't have two people that want to do the exact same things, so that's will create friction. But if you're relatively, with a few overlaps, but relatively complementary skill sets, but I would say personality is probably 70% of it. Are you the same? Do you understand each other?
That was going to be my question. And when you say personality, I really like this understanding thing. When you understand each other, communication and the way that you communicate and the way that you deal with disappointment and letdown, like those are super important. And those are not things that you typically, when you're interviewing for anything, interviewing or being interviewed, that is on the list. And those are things that you find out when you're deep in it too. So that's great that you two were able to match up. That's really a complementary pairing then.
And then I do wonder also, because we're in quite similar stages of life. We both have 3 kids. They're roughly plus minus the same ages. So there's an understanding as well of full flexibility. There's full understanding when someone needs to go to camp with a kid or needs to attend something with the school. It's just we get that. We both understand each other, and so I think that also that's just a natural. We don't even think about it, but I do think underlyingly as an underlying factor that helps.
Can you talk to us then about getting from your first meeting with each other, where you were like, "Hey, I've got this idea. What do you think?" To launch? And I don't know what your launch looked like. Was it a hard launch, or was it a rolling soft launch? How did you get from there to there? And was it a lot, was it a year? Was it a lot of time? Was it, my own child is trying to bust through the door to join our conversation here. So I'm sorry if you hear.
That's just how interesting we are. Everyone wants to hear about cleaning, Amber.
Everyone.
Everyone.
So what did getting to launch look like?
Well, I can tell you, the launch itself was literally one cloth. And then Kristy and I in a car driving the length of New Zealand, having about cramps in our toes with the amount of toe curling knock on door meetings. But we would literally, we jumped in the car. We had this one sample that the factory sent us, and then we just started it. We were both with this one cloth. We think it's awesome, but does anyone else? And we just knocked on doors. I think we did a 4 or 5 day road trip, left the husbands and the kids behind, and just knocked on all these doors to all these buyers that had no idea who we were or what we were selling or what the product was about, but they did know that there was a trend in the market happening. So they gave us a bit of time, and that got us pretty much sort of pre-signed up with all the biggest supermarkets through the country. And then we came back, put the order with the factory, and Kristy, a few months later, a whole lot of boxes arrived, and we chucked as many as we could into the boot of one of our cars, and left the husbands and kids again. And then we went on another road trip, and then we just knocked on all the same doors and a few more, and had boxes of this one cloth that we put on a shelf in all these supermarkets throughout the country. And so that was literally the start. It was a very hands-on approach. There was no science to it. It was just getting out there.
Gutsy. Wow.
Yeah. We would literally walk down the aisle of each supermarket with our phones and take a photo of the category, and we'd have a box of the cloths under our arm, and we'd take a photo, work out where we thought our product could sit, and then we would scuttle up the stairs to the buyer, do a 2-minute pitch, and we'd cut the product in on shelf right there and then. So I think we did 8 stores in a day, didn't we, Stine?
Yeah. And then we did that for a few days and did a few more days, and
That's the most unique launch that I've heard. That's so gutsy. I'm really impressed. What was your pitch?
Well, I think the pitch was that pretty much, in a friendly way, you come in, we have no meetings, so obviously we come in with a very positive, friendly, slightly humble approach, but probably saying the message of the trends that are in the market, if they feel their customers have been asking for sustainable products, what they feel about this product, the price was probably okay as well, and the margins to them they thought would be decent. So that was pretty much the pitch. Say, this is the new trend. Will your customer like it? And if so, why don't you just give it a try? And it's one box of cloth. It's not gonna break your budget. It doesn't sell. I mean, some of the biggest stores, Kristy and I would say, we'll come back and we'll do an in-store demonstration for you. If they look at us twice and they say, but you can't eat them. We only do in-store demonstrations of food. We said, no, we can do that. We will show people how this works. So we end up spending a lot of weekends around the country as well, doing in-store demonstrations of showing how amazing the cloth was, the absorbency, how it doesn't smell, talking to people, educating consumers, which was quite cool, which is also how we actually ended up getting inspiration for the next few products in the range, because people started asking for other things.
So, wow, that's okay, amazing. So you rocked up to without an appointment to buyer offices, knocked on the door with having done some reconnaissance in their own store to say, this is how we think your store could be better with our product. Here's some photos that we've done real quick for you.
Yes.
And
do you like the look of this?
Yeah, do you like this? We could come back and do some in-store demonstrations of a cloth. And they were like, why does that need a demo? And you were like, no, just trust us. So you did demos and it took off from there. People were like, fine, whatever, ladies, let's do this cloth thing. You've convinced me with everything. Your pitch, particularly the statistics. Great, let's put this in our store. Were they just like, okay, let's try one box? Or was anybody off the bat like, you know what? Let's pre-order a big order. Did anybody, like forward-thinking buyers that you crashed into their offices?
All right, Kristy, do you want to say that?
Yes, yeah. There were quite a number of stores actually that I think we had a minimum order of one box, which is 30 packs, and then we had a big shipper which had about 8 boxes in it, and we had a lot of stores that ordered the 8-box deal.
Wow.
So it wasn't pallet loads at that stage, there was shipper loads. And in those demos, I think the biggest one we did was about 90 packs.
Yeah. So once they see, you can actually move 90 packs in 2 hours, then okay, this product will sell. So that really convinced them as well. So once you get out and talk about the product, it sells because it's a great product and it beats microfiber and any other plastic product any time of the day. But it becomes an educational thing, to make that conversion, and that's why we found those in-store demos to be really helpful. And we didn't have a lot of budget to get anyone else to do it, so we just brought up ourselves.
Plus, you were on a road trip, so you just like,
yeah.
So you had your office in your car. That's pretty amazing. That is really, really cool. And then I had another question about, yes. One thing that I think is really important for entrepreneurs. How did you celebrate that early road trip, those wins on that early road trip? How did you two celebrate? Was it like champagne and paper cups in the car? Or like, how did you celebrate and acknowledge those early wins?
Yeah, champagne definitely played its part. And we actually had to remind ourselves for every step of the journey. And sometimes I have to remind myself that we have to keep celebrating. But for every win that we have, we need to do something to to congratulate ourselves. Putting the first box of cloths the first celebration was when all the product arrived and we were like, oh my gosh, this has actually come alive. This is a real business. And this product actually has almost like a personality. This is like what we've created. So that was when the first champagne came out. And after that, the champagne kept flowing, and the odd dinner out, or we would say to ourselves, if we can sell X amount, let's do such and such, or buy ourselves a treat. And I think
we're both quite big foodies.
Yeah.
So if we're on a road trip and you go to one of the biggest cities, we're like, if we manage to sell this amount today, we're gonna book a table at that restaurant.
I think that's how I motivate myself as well. Every time I'm doing something, I find myself saying, what is my food treat for this? Is it a donut? Like, what's my food treat? And I think that's a good motivator. So a lot of restaurant little win celebrations. That's awesome.
Yeah. I think that was definitely a big motivator for us.
Yeah, it's a good one, right? What's my food treat? Or if you're a parent of young kids, what's my food treat where I could not share my food treat and be alone? Can I eat it alone?
That's
without
a
having
good point,
kids
actually.
crawling on me. That seems like a food treat. And then how did, like, from there, how did you decide to uh, develop your next product? Like, how did you decide what it was? Did the market tell you, or were you like, this is the thing that we've wanted to develop next as a follow-up? How did you get to that? This is the next thing that we're going to do.
That's a great question, Amber. During those in-store demos, we most definitely we were at the forefront of the consumer. So it was a great opportunity. It was like doing a focus group almost. You're right there, listening to what customers want and talking to people. And every product that we've launched that's been the catalyst, talking to people and understanding exactly what it is that they want for the next product. And the next one came along, was a large version of the medium pack of cloth. So the first one's a 3-pack. The second product is 2 large cloths in a pack. And that was the result of men coming up to us in the in-store demos and saying to us, I just love your cloth, but I just wish you had one for bigger hands. And we had that comment quite a bit. And Stine, I have to say, is really great at picking up on these cues. And she said to me, God, people keep on talking about wanting a bigger cloth. Let's do a bigger version. And nobody had done that. We hadn't seen those in New Zealand at all, or Australia. And so we launched the 2-pack, and that was product number 2. And then the next one was customers in the in-store demos coming up and saying, I'd love you to do a sustainable alternative to single-use paper towels or those blue synthetic rolls of cloth that are made out of petroleum and plastics.
Is that what they're made out of?
Sorry?
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Not many people know, actually. Yeah.
Yeah, good to know.
Yeah.
And so that's when we launched the bamboo reusable towels, which are these bamboo towels that sit on a paper towel stand, and you can tear off each one on a perforated line, and you can use it, wash it, and reuse it up to 85 times for all kinds of things. It's so versatile. And it's actually become our biggest seller. It's really, really amazing. You can use it as a casual napkin for a barbecue. You can use it as a general cleaning cloth. You could line the vegetable compartments in your fridge and keeps everything fresh and absorbs moisture. And you can put it in the bottom
wipes.
of the
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
I've actually, I don't know if I told you this, Stine, but I've got a roll sitting on a paper towel stand in my bathroom now, and I use it as a face cloth or a makeup remover. So there's all kinds of things you can use it for. But every product that we launch, we listen to the customer and we find out what they want, and that's where you sort of identify what the need is.
So then, can you talk to us, and by us I mean the audience? There are a couple, when you're small, you are doing everything, and it's easy to fill up your day doing things. Like, you have 25 lists and only one is going to get done in the day, so it's easy to find other things to do, whether it's on the technical side, it's the product side, whatever it is. Can you talk to us about the importance of, let's call it, customer discovery? So in practical terms, it's just figuring out what your customer wants, needs, how they're using a product, what their other ancillary needs are, if what they're telling you is actually what they mean to say, customer discovery altogether. So especially, with a product like this or a range like this, but for really anybody who's selling to anybody, which is any business, the importance of carving out time and really dedicating resource and energy to customer discovery.
We did a lot of work on the customer journey, the customer avatar, to really understand where are people before they come to us. Where in their journey, where are they at? And I think we started out probably a little bit too old. I think we started out sort of thinking that it would probably be primarily moms, because they do tend to do most of the shopping, especially the cleaning. Somehow the husbands get to avoid that part, especially from the shopping point of view, not necessarily the cleaning. But so we knew that we needed to target mainly women. I think we initially started to target anyone who had kids sort of middle school and up. Right. So that's kind of your 10 years and up, kind of. Am I right? Yeah. And we realized that and then that kind of, for some reason, trickled into an even older target group. And we actually lost out on all these more modern younger families that have a real passion, and they actually have something called environmental anxiety, because they're really, really concerned about the planet in a different way than we are, because they've grown up with it. They've not had a day without hearing about it through some sort of communications channel. Whereas for us, it's more of a learned thing that we've acquired as we've gone older. And I think so one of the mistakes is probably we tapped in a little bit too much on the older target group, and just dying now to capture a bit more of the younger group as well. But really trying to understand also, where they're shopping, where have they been, and yeah. So I think we're kind of on the same track now, on the right track.
What are some quirks that you uncovered, things that you were like, oh, interesting? I know in building EPOP and building our business, there were some things that came up that I was like, oh, they're using it for that. A brand new use case that I had, just from talking to customers. What was kind of a moment for you guys where you were like, oh, really? I didn't consider that. We didn't think of that.
I think we've had a few of those actually. I think, you can chime in as well, Kristy. We got one customer who sent a picture of her cleaning the paws of her poodle. So when the dog had been outside, she would use the little cloth, and she actually sent us a little video of her cleaning little paws, and we were like, oh, this is so cute. I think we've seen our dish brush being used for all sorts of things, like cleaning vegetables. And I was like, oh, then I tried that out. I was like, oh, why would you not do that all the time? This is awesome. I had someone who sent the dish brush being used as a back scrub. That was the man. So the man's like, oh, this is a great back scrub, honey. And so she's like, I need another one because my husband has stolen it.
That's a funny one.
Actually, the eco scrubs, we do a 2-pack, and we design them as a kitchen scrub for protecting your good potware. And we'd have these ladies come and buy the 2-pack, and they'd use one for the pots and one for exfoliating in the shower, which is perfectly fine. But we didn't design it for that use.
That's an interesting one. So one here, one in the kitchen, one in the bathroom. Who thinks of the customers are so. Users they're so inventive, right? They'll find a way, or it's amazing. I love that, the creative use of when you put something out there and you're like, that is not what I intended. That's really interesting.
Yeah. You can also take we've got some customers who take our bamboo sheets and they'll wash their lettuce for their salad, and they'll put it into a Tupperware container, and then they'll put the bamboo on the top in layers, and they'll layer the lettuce, and the lettuce will stay fresh for about 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
2 weeks.
Yeah, and they send us pictures of all this because because it's hard to believe, but we get a lot of pictures from customers that send us how they use our products, which is awesome. And so it's really inspirational, which is how we create a lot of our social media content as well, to be honest, because then we try it out and find how, think this is great, it works really well.
So from 2019, when you launched this awesome launch that I'm going to remember for a long time, because this is a really good launch story, to today, how has the company grown, and what are you looking like today?
Well, we've got a product range of now about 12 products. We got at least that and more in the pipeline. Everything to do with innovation and reducing single-use plastics, or just plastics, full stop. We just cannot stand unnecessary plastic. So that's our main mission in life, is to just come up with better solutions for people. And we're fully across New Zealand. We are making big waves in Australia. So I think it's a really cool place to be in. We've also managed to keep ourselves really honest throughout this process. It's been easy along the way to cut corners or sell yourself into the profit devil. And it's been tempting, but we do have a really, really strong honesty ethos within the company. And the staff that we've employed, the staff we have is a bit younger than us, and they are fully into the transparency and the honesty of the brand. And it really keeps everyone super, super honest. So there's certain products that we know will have fat margins and are easy to pump out, but we just cannot hand on heart put them on market.
Right.
So there's challenges like that, but we're super proud that we actually managed to stay honest, because it is hard to sometimes tell consumers, well, we're a little bit more expensive because we don't have that plastic component, or we are not lying about this compostability thing. It is, there's lots of things that we pay a little bit extra for,
Right.
But that's the brand. It has to be honest.
So 2 questions for you. One, how big is your team now from you two to what
So
is it
how we
today?
are a bit of a global team. So we're about us and 4 more. So still quite a small team. And then
Yeah,
we have a few contractors we work with on and off that
sure,
aren't sort of on the payroll, but
sure.
that we pull them are pretty. I mean, that yeah, they're part of the company, but they're not on the payroll. But yeah,
Right. But you're still
probably have
fewer than
another.
10.
So we probably have a few more of those as well.
Nice. Okay. So you guys are still a nice lean team. And for the folks out there, because we do have a lot of questions and we talk to entrepreneurs, especially sustainable, impact driven entrepreneurs, about how do you talk to your customers about this is what it's going to have to cost, and it's just because this is the promise that we want to give to you, or these are our values, or this is why production costs more, or this is why it costs more to make, or it's because this material that we're using is glass and it's not plastic, and this is how it was transported, and etc. How do you what's your narrative? How do you talk to your customers about that? And have you found just like a load of understanding on the other end, or has it been a journey?
I think most people realize that, oh, well, traditionally to buy either eco or organic or anything that's sustainable has traditionally been, a bit more expensive. And that's probably one thing that we've tried to change is the whole thing with all our products is we wanted them to sit on 3 pillars. We wanted them to be sustainable, we wanted them to look good, and they had to be affordable. So we actually communicate that to our customers, and the fact that they're actually having an opportunity to be able to buy the products that they've always wanted to buy, but it was a little bit out of reach in terms of their pocket. It is slightly more expensive than standard products, but I think the whole story of the fact that you're actually doing something positive for the planet, and it's not just going and buying a cleaning cloth. The cleaning cloth for us is a vehicle for change. So there's a whole lot of purpose-led messages behind the actual product itself that actually entice people to want to pick it up and make the small shift. I don't know if you wanted to add anything to that, Stine.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of talking to people and consumers about the sustainability of products, that is probably our biggest challenge. It's an ongoing education. We in New Zealand, we're quite well known, but we still, when we're out talking to people, be it trade shows, or we still do some in-store demos because we just like to talk to consumers to actually hear what's happening on the ground. And we still get a lot of aha expressions in their face when we talk about the good that they do versus like the synthetic rolls and the thin wipes that are made of petroleum and plastic and the damage that does. There's a lot of information that is just not being shared well enough. So I think the education is just ongoing, and we keep pushing it all the time, and it's definitely our biggest challenge. And it's also a challenge for consumers, to be honest, who to trust. There's so much information, and I mean, I'm sure you've heard all about greenwashing before with the angle of your podcast. It's an issue for all of us smaller brands that want to do it the right way and are up against some bigger players that don't have the same morals or ethics as you have. So that's our challenge as well, to try to explain the differences in certain products and why they should choose ours over another. And the price point becomes a determining factor. You have the well-meaningness of people saying, "Oh, I want to pay a little bit more," but they don't want to pay too much more, and we get that. It's not something that's easily affordable for everyone, and price is a massive factor when you're in the supermarket choosing between different products on shelf. So one thing is what you promise, when someone asks you, but your choice on the supermarket shelf is often quite different, and that's definitely a big learning for us as well. So some of the data that we read and that we get is, 70% of consumers requires a brand to have a giving back, otherwise they just won't support it. But that's just not the sales data you see in the supermarket shelf. So it's there's still work to be done, and yeah.
I love that disconnect between, and by love I mean it drives me nuts, that disconnect between the analyst surveying, they're just a very generic and sterile surveying that you do, and watching actual buying patterns. It's sometimes a big gulf, yes, especially around things like sustainability. who in their right mind would be like, absolutely not, I would love to buy the pollutant when asked outright, you know what I mean? Like, it's tough, and it's a lot of what our partner stores are experiencing. Yeah, yes, there are definitely social trends, especially with younger generations, and their purchasing power coming online, and amassing. They're just consuming more, et cetera, and their values are out front. But then you do go to the store, and a supermarket is a tough place to be, because it's a literal comparison. It's a literal supermarket right there, and you see the prices, and it's a tough place to be. So yeah.
It is. It is a different psychology on shelf, and also the cleaning shelf. It's not an aisle anyone really wants to be in. People want to get in and they want to get out of there as quickly as possible. So you get a really short time span for people to actually see your product, make them up their mind they want to get it, even though it's a little bit more expensive. So there's a few obstacles on the way in supermarkets, but we're getting there, and people are getting there.
Luckily, our products look good on shelf, so they're very sophisticated designs, and we find that 50% of consumers will walk into the supermarket and they'll pick up our product because it looks good. They might not actually be necessarily an eco person, but we're converting them sort of in the back, in the background, just by having a product that looks good, and they're picking it up and taking it home, realizing it's functional, but also they're doing something positive for the planet at the same time.
Isn't that interesting? The aesthetic of it all. It's a real. And if for the audience, if you haven't gone to the website, go. They are very Instagram worthy designs. Like they do look very nice. And just before we get to the rapid fire, where do you ship? Plans for expansion? I'm all the way in London. Right now I'm sitting in the US. Like where can everybody get their hands on your product?
Well, if you're based in New Zealand, Australia, it's very, very easy. So that we ship all across both countries very easily. Our next plan for expansion is the States, and that's always been on the cards. So just a few little practicalities of funding and things like that. The American market is quite a different beast. So there's a few practical things to sort it for that market entry, but that's where we're heading. So that will be coming soon as well. Otherwise, we just love Dead Hard fans. So if anyone's super keen, we are a small team. We're super personable. We always respond to an email if someone wants a product sent somewhere. We're flexible. Anything can be organized, really.
Well, I was gonna say, when you are about to enter the U.S. market, make sure to connect with the B1 crowd, shoppers, and other merchants as well. Got loads of grocery stores and refilleries, etc. Lots of folks there for a little advanced launch. I'm sure that folks would love
your community
to.
is awesome, because we looked into it, we thought, oh, this is such a cool group. So
they are a cool group. The consumers are very up, and they're not shy about what they want to see as well.
No, but that's great, because it's nice when people like to know what they want, so it makes it easier.
Yeah. So, okay, to close this, we always do rapid fire, which I admit is not very often rapid fire, because I do not ask these questions in yes, no, which I should, but I like the answers. So in 2023, and this really is for the entrepreneurs amongst us, we're in Q4 now, just the volatility of building your own business. I like to ask founders this question. Did you get done everything in 2023 that you intended to get done?
Never. There's always a long list of things. We do like to tick boxes, though. Yeah.
We had a major one was probably that was pretty much almost a year or 10 months ago. We wanted to launch Australia, and we did, and it's gone really well. So I think that was a big tick for us. That we've had a few other big ticks as well in terms of staff recruiting, expanding the team. But as Kristy say, we probably always set the targets up here, because we just want to do it all when you make the plan for the year, we are the only plan 6 months out, to be honest. And then we have a rough plan for the year, but the more sort of granular planning is only 6 months out. And we always put too much in. Like, oh no, we really want to do that in these 6 months. We just cannot wait for that for the second half. It has to be in the first half of the year. But we land somewhere in between, and it's not bad.
I love that. And I think I've talked to one entrepreneur who was like, yeah, I got everything done. And I was like, okay, well, now we need another conversation. But just really in one person. I like to plan in 6-month increments as well. And I put way too much in always. And I have a fantastic tech team on the other side of super just practical product and engineers. And they're like, this, Amber, is what you realistically can do in 6 months. And I'm like, yeah, but let's just put all these, we'll put it on a backlog over here on this side, but let's just keep it in view. And they're like, this is what we can get done. What was the biggest challenge in 2023?
Oh, biggest challenge.
Kristy and I don't look much challenges. we tend to not see them. We've got this question before, Kristy, I reckon, or some sort of some version of it, and we both sort of get embarrassingly quiet.
I think that the thing with Stine and I, if we come across a roadblock, we just bowl on through it. We just have that sort of personality. So, or both of us do, and I didn't realize this about Stine until we were well on the journey. But nothing really stands in our way. And of course, there's negative things that can happen along the way. And, I make mistakes every day. And, but we just manage to push on through, and we look at each mistake as an opportunity rather than a roadblock, I suppose, which sounds very cliche, I know, but that's just the way we roll.
It's not. I hear this a lot from entrepreneurs, which is going to make me jump a couple questions to this next one, which is, what is your not just in 2023, but in the life of this company, what has been your biggest failure to date?
Oh,
sometimes I wonder if it's being too slow, for instance, to enter Australia. Like we could have entered that pretty much on day one. I think there was a bit of safety entering in New Zealand because that's where we were based. But a market that is so similar, we could have entered earlier and made bigger waves earlier on. So probably, I never felt that we've stayed in our comfort zone. So maybe it's been probably a personal development for Kristy and I as well, because I certainly feel that we're constantly uncomfortable. But we're also constantly moving forward. So we always talk, if we ever feel comfortable, we're not doing enough. So, but I would probably say that if we could do it over, we would launch into Australia way earlier. Well, I'm completely just talking off the cuff here, Kristy. I've not run into anything on this by you.
It's a good point, because one of the things I've always said about Stine and I is we're really nimble, and we do, because we're a small, formidable team, we move really fast on things. And it's a really good point, because in the back of my mind, I've been thinking about that lately, that, we wanted to scale this business and scale it fast. And I think, supermarkets and, big chain supermarkets and online is the way to go. And I think we probably could have entered Australia a whole lot sooner. I think, New Zealand, a lot of people think of New Zealand as a testing ground. And it's been amazing. And we've still got a whole lot to do here. But Australia could have happened a bit faster, for sure.
Well, that's a really real and honest answer. That's really actionable for folks as well. Let's do the flip side of that then. What do you feel is your biggest success to date?
I guess the speed at which we got into one of New Zealand's biggest supermarket chains was one.
That crazy launch, yeah.
And we were probably the first sustainable alternative in the category to be put on shelf as well.
Nice.
So I think that was quite a big one. Sorry, Kristy, you go.
No. This is just sort of by the by, but we managed to get onto the primetime television show, sort of 7 p.m. at night on the biggest, the show with the biggest listenership, and it took the business to a whole new level. It was just we put it down as one of our goals, and we thought it was a little bit out of reach to even go there. And we got on and we did a full day of filming, and the business went to a whole new stage after that. Just the amount of people. I think it sounds probably small on an American scale, but you know, I think there's about 300,000 listeners per night, something like that. Stine, is that right?
Oh, no. They have
Oh, they've got more than that.
I think they have about over 1 million viewers, which is 20% of the population, and more.
Okay.
So 20 to 25% of the population tune in every night at 7 p.m. to watch this TV show. So this is, you know, I know for an American scale, it's because that sounds small, but imagine 20-25% of your country tuning in, watching your products, you know, watching you talk about your product.
Huge.
And
That's
it just, I think it also
fantastic.
just gave us real confidence that once people hear about it and we got a chance to actually talk about it, people wanted it. We turned over in a week what we did all of last year in 1 week.
So that's huge validation. You're right.
We were like, oh, people definitely want this product, and we got so many positive emails. But even now, we went to a trade show not too long ago, and a couple of people come up. Oh, we saw you guys on TV. I'm like, oh, that's a while back now, but thank you.
Oh. And what about the most important lesson you've learned to date?
I think it was Stine and I often talk about, this is just a small one from me, but neither Stine nor I are perfectionists. And I think that has taken us leaps and bounds. If you are trying to become perfect in every area of your business, and you don't actually get there, you can actually feel pretty down about it. But because we realized this a little way into the journey that we're happy with 85% or 80%. 85% or 80% is good enough. If you get to 100, that's great, but just do the job, do the task as well as we can, and then move on. And it just keeps the momentum going, keeps the wheels turning. And yeah, we're not sort of hunting for that perfect thing to happen every day.
And then I think we daily, one of the values on the wall is pretty much don't sweat the small stuff. And that's important for us as well.
Yeah, I love that, those percentages, especially it's so different. If I moved from corporate to a startup, and in corporate, obviously, it's like, if this is not 120% ready,
Exactly.
do not show it to anybody, which is the opposite, of startup land. And so now I've got to constantly remind myself, if this is 100% ready, we've overbaked this. We've waited too long on this one then. And it's such a shift in mindset to get. I mean, coming from management consultant, it's like, are we going to show this to a client? Is it not 150% ready? So it's a much different mindset. That was, Kristy, that's a good one that I'm constantly reminding myself. If you ladies could get 85% of the world to adopt a single behavior, what would that be?
Oh, for me, that would be stop buying single-use anything.
Mm-hmm.
Just, there's always a reusable alternative for whatever it is, and just find it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's always astounded me that when I was a kid, we would just take water out of the tap to drink. Mm-hmm. And now we pay, everybody goes into a store and buys a bottle. We've got the brand called Pump over here. I don't know if you have that, but a bottle of pump water for $3 or $4. Why do we even have that when we've got some of the cleanest drinking water in the world? So yeah, I'm on that same path, Stine. Single-use plastic, it's got to go. Yeah. I mean, if they could put fountains, drinking fountains into every public place around the country, where you just take your reusable bottle and fill it up, that would just be perfect.
Yeah, that would change a lot right there. And then where can we find you? In real life, online, social media? Plug your handles for us.
Most of it, we're big on Instagram, Facebook. Everything is --good change store.
Okay.
And then we're also on Pinterest. We're attempting some TikTok. Got some younger team members helping us out with that one. And otherwise, our website is where there's a lot of information about all the giving back we do as well, and what we kind of stand for, which is goodchangestore.com.
Wonderful. Stine and Kristy, a big, big thank you for stopping by to talk about good change and your journey. And again, this launch story is amazing. I'm probably going to
Thank
be
you.
retelling it in the little entrepreneur circles in London and the US, because this is a really good story. I like this launch story a lot. Thank you for sharing it.
No
Thank
worries.
you for having
We,
us.
we try not to be too sophisticated if we don't have to.
I love the road trip, 2 road trips, and then the thing is launched. Everyone else, thank you so much. We'll see you on B1.